Hello everyone, this week we are going to learn about market failures and the role of government in economic decision making. First, before we understand the role of government, we are going to look at economic efficiency and understand what do we mean by economic efficiency. So economists use the concept of efficiency to judge actions because efficient use of resources implies the maximum value of output from the resource base. So the idea of efficiency is such that you get the most output given the resources you have. That's the idea of efficiency. So we need two conditions for ideal efficiency. First, all activities that provide individuals with more benefits than costs must be undertaken. Second, no activities that provide benefits less than costs should be undertaken. So the idea is that we should take all activities that have more benefits than costs, and the activities that have benefits less than costs should be ignored. In order for economic efficiency to be achieved, both conditions must be present. And you see on this figure marginal benefit and marginal cost. And we know that the cost of doing additional activity increases because time is scarce, and marginal benefit goes down as you take more activities. So we need to find out that the number of activities that brings us economic efficiency. So let's see here at Q1, we are here, Q1 number of activities are taken, and the marginal benefit is here, okay, at Q1, and marginal cost is here. So the cost of doing that activity is here, benefit is here. As you see, benefit is higher than cost. Marginal benefit is higher than marginal cost. We shouldn't stop here. Why? Because we can continue to take more activities until we reach a point that marginal benefit equals marginal cost. So Q1 is inefficient as there are some units for which the marginal benefit exceeds the marginal cost which are not undertaken. You see here, there are activities that are not undertaken, but still marginal benefit is higher than marginal cost. Q3 is also inefficient. Why? Because marginal benefit is less than marginal cost. For that reason, Q2 is the economically efficient level of output. At Q2, the marginal benefit stemming from the consumption of that unit just equals the marginal cost of producing it. So here is one saying, an old saying, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing the best of your ability. Is this really true? Economics indicates that at some point the gains from doing something better will not be worth the cost. Just think about yourself. You clean your room. First you clean the room, maybe the surfaces that you can see, and then you make up your bed, but you don't usually spend time cleaning under the bed. So if you clean under the bed and organize everything, every single thing in your room, then you hit for perfection. But it makes sense to stop short of perfection. Why? Because economics is about trade-offs. Even worthy activities can be pursued beyond the level consistent with economic efficiency. If you spend time to be perfect in cleaning your room, maybe you are going to give up your precious time doing some other activities. Okay? When making personal decisions, people seem to be more aware that perfection is almost never worth the cost. This principle also applies to government. Regardless of the sector, achievement of perfection is generally not worth the cost. So let's talk about now economic role of government. When we look at the literature, and there is substantial agreement among scholars that at least two functions of government are legitimate. The first one is protective function. So what is protective function? Government protects the individuals and their property against invasions by others. Property rights, right? Government protects the property rights. The second one is productive function. What is productive function? It's the production of goods and services that cannot easily be provided through private markets. It doesn't say that government produce most of the things or almost everything. It says that goods and services that cannot easily be provided through private markets. The most fundamental function of government is the protection of individuals and their property against acts of aggression. involves the maintenance of a legal structure, rules for the enforcement of contracts, and a mechanism for the settlement of disputes. Productive function involves the provision of a limited set of goods difficult to supply through the market. And also government provides a stable monetary and financial environment for the free markets to function. Why do we need government? If free markets can allocate the resources efficiently by supply and demand, what is the role of government in the production side of the economy? Let's look at the potential shortcomings of the market, then we will understand the role of government. We have 4 reasons that invisible hand, that means the price mechanism, may fail. The first one is lack of competition, the second one is externalities, the third one is public goods, and the fourth one is poor information. So here you can find a Charles Wolfe Jr. Senior Economic Advisor's quote: "The principal justification for public policy intervention lies in the frequent and numerous shortcomings of market outcomes." Let's start with the first one, lack of competition. When competition is absent, sellers may gain by restricting output and raising price. So if there is not enough competition or there is no competition in the industry, the seller is going to increase the price and decrease the quantity, so the seller can increase its revenue at the expense of people who cannot purchase the product. So too few units will be produced if there is lack of competition. Let's see one example. You see on this slide, S1 represents the supply curve with competitive supply. So there is the price P1 and quantity Q1. And if producers in the market are able to restrict supply and or limit entry of the other firms to the industry, so let's say one company dominates and limits the entering of other firms to the industry, then we will have a restricted supply of S2 curve. The quantity drops to Q2. Q2 is less than Q1 and price is higher now. P2 is higher than P1. So with restricted supply, companies are selling at a higher price and limiting the entry of other firms in the industry. Here is the key point. Price is a revenue for the company, so it's a profit. But how about these people here? Look, there are people here who could buy the product if the industry were competitive, but now they cannot afford or they don't want to pay P2 price, and these people are out. They are no longer part of this supply and demand because they can't afford or buy the product. So this is inefficient. Why? Because companies with competition can produce Q1 units of output and can make a normal profit and sell this much of additional output. But because of lack of competition, they don't produce that much. This creates the economic inefficiency. So when competition is absent, too few units are produced and the price is higher than the competitive market level. The second one is externalities. So what is externality? Externalities exist when the market fails to register fully cost and benefits. Let me give one example. Let's say there is a village and then villagers get their income from fishing, okay? And then a new company is constructed here, and that company is dumping poisonous materials into the river that kills all the fish. So this income of the fishing people, gone, okay? So there is a cost to these people, but company bears the cost? Depends. If there is regulation, yes, but if there is no regulation, then the company doesn't care. So here we are talking about an external cost. What is this external cost? External costs present when the actions of individuals, group, or firms harm the property of others. Firm is harming the property of fishers. Their income is gone without their consent. The problem here arises because property rights are imperfectly defined and or enforced. Or who can use the river? Fishermen, fishing, or firm can dump the poisonous material. So here you see the property rights are not defined properly. We don't always have negative externalities. We have positive externalities too. In positive externalities, there is an external benefits. So the external benefit is the benefit to the third parties. and external benefits present when the actions of individuals, groups, or firms generate benefits for non-participating parties. So here is one external cost, just we talk about it. Because some of the costs of production are not fully registered, when external costs are present, the supply curve understates the true cost of production. So the firm here polluting the environment only deals with production costs, but the actual cost includes the production cost plus polluting the river. Okay? So this is inefficient because units will be produced that are valued less than their full cost. Can you now explain the link between external costs and pollution? I think you can, right? Because the pollution itself is the external cost. Now let's see graphically what happens when there are external costs to production. In this market, under initial supply and demand condition, so the company doesn't bear the cost of polluting the river, then the company is producing Q1 units and selling at P1 price. But actually, this production only depends on production costs. Okay, remember there are external costs polluting the river. If we include that external cost to the production cost, then the supply curve is going to shift to the left. Remember, when the costs are rising, supply shifts to the left. And now ideal price is going to be higher. Why? Because now the company is paying more for production. Not only the production cost, but polluting the environment. Therefore, the prices are higher and quantities are lower. So without any control in this market, there are too many units are produced. With control, it goes to the economically efficient level of output. With external costs, too many units are produced and price is below that which would prevail if all costs were identified and factored into the market process. When external benefits are present, the demand curve understates the total value of the output. Units that are more highly valued than their cost may not be produced. From the viewpoint of efficiency, this time too few units will often be produced. Now, let's think about vaccination, COVID-19 vaccination. So, vaccination has an external benefit. Why? I can be vaccinated, your friends can be vaccinated, and too many people are vaccinated, then there is a barrier here between the virus and unvaccinated people. You see, you are actually protecting unvaccinated people by not contaminating the virus. So, vaccines have external benefit, but that means they are too few units produced because this external benefit is not counted in the market transaction. So, let's see this graph. In this market, under present supply and demand conditions, output Q1 and P1 is produced. But we know that there is an external benefit to the third parties because of vaccination. Unvaccinated people are protected. If we count that external benefit, demand should be higher, at a higher point. There should be more vaccination in the market. You can think about this as education too. Education has an external benefit. Why? Because everybody gets educated, then the crime rates are going down. So people even who do not get education get benefit because of educated people. You see that external benefits should be included in the demand side, but it's not. Therefore, too few units are produced. So what the government is doing, government is actually subsidizing education. By subsidizing, government aim is to increase the demand. Therefore, when you increase the demand, the number of educated people in the country is going to increase and the crime rates are going to go down. So when external benefits, a positive externality are present, too few units will often be produced and price will be less than that which would prevail if all the benefits were identified and reflected in the market process. And the third market imperfection is public goods. So what are public goods? Public goods are jointly consumed. Jointly consumed means individuals can simultaneously enjoy consumption of the same product or service. So let's give one example, park. You can go jog in the park and somebody else can go jog at the same time, right? You can consume the same park at the same time. But think about fish taco. Fish taco is not like that. If you buy fish taco, you consume it. A person next to you cannot consume the fish taco because every time you bite the fish taco, you diminish the amount, right? So for that reason, public goods are jointly consumed. You can enjoy the same consumption at the same time with many people. And the second one is non-excludable. So non-excludable means it's costly and in some cases impossible to restrict the availability of the good to only those who pay for it. For example, national defense. National defense. Let's say America, right? It's protected from missile attack. But not only Americans are living in this country, tourists are visiting. There are students coming from abroad. All are protected, right, under the national defense. If there is a missile attack, all of them are protected. So we cannot exclude tourists and say that, no, you're not going to be protected if there is a missile attack. So as you see, public goods are non-excludable. That means it's costly or impossible to restrict the availability of the good to only those who pay for it. So these goods are free because you can't charge. If you pay for it, then you can exclude. You say that payers are here, non-payers are here, okay? If they are free, they are not excludable. What are the problems that arise with a public good? Since these goods are available to everyone and they are free, free markets do not want to produce these goods, do not want to supply because they can't make money out of this. So if a public good is made available to one, it's simultaneously made available to others. Because suppliers are unable to establish a one-to-one link between payment for and received of the good, it will be difficult to provide public goods through markets. Because those who do not pay cannot be excluded, no one has much of an incentive to pay for such good. Each has an incentive to become a free rider. For example, let's think about fireworks. We love fireworks to watch it, right? If I ask some of you, you'll say, I value it, I may pay for it. But when it comes to payment, you can say, oh, instead of paying this, let's go to the top of the mountain or somewhere high that we can watch the fireworks. You see, if it is hard to exclude someone, then we have the problem of free rider. Free rider is a person who receives the benefits of the good without helping to pay for its cost. So for that reason, free markets cannot provide public goods. Then who should provide it? Government, right? Government is going to collect taxes and finance the production of public goods. So we will have fireworks, we will have public parks, we will have national defense and so on. Characteristics of a public good. It's the good's characteristics, not the sector in which it's produced, that distinguishes it as a public good. So public schools may not be public good, okay? You have to check the characteristics of public good. Are they free? Is that true that everybody can simultaneously consume the same good? So examples of public goods: national defense, broadcast radio and television signals, and clean air. Markets often develop ways of providing public goods. For example, broadcast radio and television signals are free, but companies, by using advertising to support the provision of broadcast radio and television. Nonetheless, public goods often cause a breakdown in the harmony between self-interest and the efficient use of resources. For that reason, government finances by collecting tax for the public goods. And the last one is the poor information. This is another market imperfection. The consumer's information problem is minimal if the item is purchased regularly. So if you buy milk every week, then you know the quality of milk, and if you don't like the quality, you can just go buy another brand. Problems of conflicting interests and unhappy customers can arise if goods are difficult to evaluate on inspection and seldom repeatedly purchased from the same producer. For instance, how many of you have information about how to inspect safety features of a car? How do we know that airbags are working as it's supposed to work? Or how many times we buy the car from the same producer? For that reason, there is a lack of information here. We call this as information asymmetry. Buyers do not know as much as the sellers. Sellers know more about the good than buyers. If that is the case, again, we might need government. Why? Because government can inspect the company, inspect the safety features. So by reading the prospectus, you know how safe the car is, so you can make a decision. Another example of government intervention can be on drugs. Companies can produce drugs for sickness and then you use it, but you don't know the long-term effects. potentially capable of serious and lasting harmful side effects that cannot be predicted by a layperson is a problem here. So for that reason, we have Food and Drug Administration, FDA. FDA inspects and then approves, and after FDA approval, people start using the drugs again. So market also responds to poor information. First one is consumer information publications provide expert evaluation and unbiased information. Examples include Consumer Reports and the Better Business Bureau. Or if you buy a supplement from the market, then there is some kind of certification on it saying that this product is tested on an unbiased lab. So these are the ways that market responds to poor information. Another one is brand names and franchises. So a product becomes a brand if the quality is standardized, right? Over the time you consume the product, you receive the same quality, and for that reason it becomes famous. For instance, Best Western Hotels provides more or less the similar quality when you go either one in America or one in Turkey. So since you know the quality of the standard of that hotel, you might choose that one without any doubt. Another one is warranties. Supplier promises to repair possible problems is a way of markets responding to poor information. And the next topic is market and government failure. So we know that when there is a market failure, it's best to government to intervene, right? Lack of competition, government can check the industry and see if there is lack of competition, then government can break up the companies, for instance. If there is an externality, government can regulate, fine the companies, tax the companies, or set some rules for pollution or other things. If there is external benefit, then government can subsidize the activity, like giving subsidies to the college students. If there is poor information, then government inspect the product for the customers. And if there is a public good, then the government can provide the public good by collecting taxes, because markets cannot do the job. So, market failure is the term used to describe the failure of markets to achieve the ideal conditions of economic efficiency. When markets allocate goods inefficiently, the problem usually can be traced back to the absence of competition, externalities, public goods, or poor information. But that doesn't mean that government doesn't have failure too. Government failure is the term used to describe the situation when there is reason to anticipate that political decision-making will fail to achieve the ideal conditions of economic efficiency. Government action directed by political decision-making is merely an alternative form of economic organization. It's not a corrective device that can be counted on to provide a remedy for the shortcomings of the markets. When market failure is present, it does not follow that political action will necessarily lead to a more efficient allocation of resources. Economic analysis is comparative. It involves comparison of expected outcomes under market and political organization. So the next week we are going to look at and analyze the operation of the democratic political process, so it will be possible to compare it with the market process. So this is the end of chapter 5. Thank you.